Hey, gossip aficionados! Welcome back to the juiciest corner of the internet, where we spill the tea on the world's most powerful figures. Today, we are diving into the scandals surrounding Bill Gates, the tech mogul turned philanthropist, who has stirred up plenty of controversy with his liberal agenda. From his support for vaccines to conspiracy theories about global pandemics, we are going to dissect why many right-wing Trump conservatives see him as a puppet master behind the scenes.
Of success in the countries where you have measles all the time.
Let's get started.
About this.
Do you get mad?
First up, let's talk about Bill Gates' relentless push for vaccines. Gates has poured billions of dollars into vaccine research and distribution through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. While he claims to be saving lives and eradicating diseases, many right-wing conservatives see this as an overreach of power and a way to control the global population. His aggressive advocacy for vaccinations has sparked fears about mandatory vaccinations and government overreach.
This foreign object, so it's ready to attack with antibodies very, very quickly. When the real bug shows up,
Gates has been a vocal supporter of vaccinations as a solution to global health crises, and his foundation has funded numerous vaccination programs worldwide. However, this has not sat well with everyone.
All the kids of the world. If you go back to 1990,
For conservatives who value individual freedom and are wary of big government, Gates' efforts are seen as a form of medical tyranny. The idea of being forced to vaccinate by government mandate is anathema to those who cherish personal liberty and bodily autonomy. The controversy intensified during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Gates became one of the leading voices advocating for a global vaccination campaign. His high-profile involvement in the pandemic response led to widespread speculation and conspiracy theories. Many conservatives began to question Gates' motives, suggesting that his push for vaccines was not just about public health, but also about gaining control over the population through vaccination tracking and digital health passports.
but that's caused such immense damage.
Furthermore, Gates' ties to pharmaceutical companies have fueled suspicions that he stands to profit from the widespread use of vaccines. Critics argue that his philanthropic efforts are a cover for his business interests, and that his influence over global health policy is dangerous. This perceived conflict of interest has only added to the mistrust among conservatives, who believe that Gates is using his wealth to manipulate health policies for his own gain.
That it would be so hard. I mean, this is the richest country in the world. People have made
In summary, Bill Gates' fervent support for vaccines has made him a polarizing figure. While he presents himself as a humanitarian, many right-wing conservatives view his actions as an overreach and a threat to individual freedoms. His prominent role in the global vaccination effort during the COVID-19 pandemic has only deepened these suspicions, painting him as a villain in the eyes of those who value personal liberty above all else.
I mean, countries should be able to set priorities.
Yeah.
Through his foundation, Bill Gates has helped.
Next, let's dive into the scandal surrounding Event 201, a pandemic simulation exercise that took place just months before the outbreak of COVID-19. Organized by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Event 201 simulated a global coronavirus pandemic. To many right-wing conservatives, this was not just a coincidence, but proof of a sinister plot by the global elite to control the world through fear and disease.
Projects to build specific vaccines, but
Event 201 involved various global leaders and health experts discussing responses to a hypothetical pandemic, eerily similar to what unfolded with COVID-19. For conspiracy theorists, this was all the evidence needed to claim that the pandemic was planned. They argue that Gates and his fellow elites used the simulation as a blueprint to orchestrate the real pandemic, enabling them to impose draconian measures and expand their power.
Through this international mechanism, really promote commitments to doing this as quickly as possible and give people a sense that actually if they...
The timing of Event 201, combined with Gates' prominent role in funding and promoting the exercise, has been a focal point for accusations of a conspiracy. Many conservatives believe that the exercise was a deliberate attempt to condition the public for a real pandemic, which would allow governments to implement authoritarian controls under the guise of public health. Gates' involvement in both the simulation and the subsequent pandemic response has made him a key figure in these theories.
Given that the country...
Well, good morning, and welcome to the second day of the Global Vaccine Summit.
Critics also point to Gates' frequent warnings about the likelihood of a global pandemic, suggesting that he had insider knowledge about the impending crisis. His predictions and preparations are seen not as prescient, but as premeditated actions to manipulate the world. This perception is bolstered by Gates' continued advocacy for measures like lockdowns and digital health monitoring, which are viewed as steps toward a surveillance state. In conclusion, Event 201 and its eerie similarities to the COVID-19 pandemic have fueled conspiracy theories that Bill Gates is part of a global elite orchestrating world events for their own benefit. For right-wing Trump conservatives, this scandal exemplifies the dangers of concentrated power and the lengths to which the elite will go to maintain control. Gates' involvement in both the simulation and the real pandemic response has cemented his role as a central figure in these narratives.
Share our knowledge and insights, challenge each other's ideas and assumptions.
New York City is going
Lastly, let's tackle Bill Gates' fervent advocacy for addressing climate change, which has positioned him as a leading voice in the environmental movement. Gates has invested heavily in renewable energy and other green technologies, pushing for policies that aim to reduce carbon emissions and combat global warming. While these efforts are celebrated by liberals, many right-wing conservatives see them as part of a broader agenda to undermine traditional energy industries and impose restrictive regulations on businesses and individuals.
The world is urbanizing.
Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, outlines his vision for a carbon-neutral future, emphasizing the need for drastic changes in energy production, consumption, and industrial practices. For conservatives who support the fossil fuel industry and economic growth, Gates' proposals are viewed as radical and economically damaging. They argue that his advocacy for renewable energy is an attack on traditional energy jobs and industries, which are vital to the economy. Moreover, Gates' push for green policies is seen as hypocritical given his own carbon footprint. Despite advocating for reduced emissions, Gates is known for his lavish lifestyle, including multiple homes, private jets, and a significant energy consumption footprint. This discrepancy between his public stance and personal behavior has led to accusations of hypocrisy, with critics arguing that Gates is out of touch with the realities faced by ordinary people. Gates' involvement in international climate policy further fuels the perception that he is using his wealth to influence global agendas. His funding of various environmental initiatives and partnerships with global organizations like the United Nations are seen as attempts to shape policy in ways that align with his vision. For many conservatives, this represents a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a few elites who are not accountable to the public.
That were not surviving as recently as 1990. So,
in summary, Bill Gates' advocacy for climate change action is viewed by right-wing Trump conservatives as part of a liberal agenda to impose restrictive regulations and undermine traditional energy industries. His personal hypocrisy and influence over global policy have only added to the mistrust, painting him as an elitist out of touch with the needs and values of everyday Americans. This scandal underscores the deep divide between Gates' vision for the future and the conservative principles of economic freedom and individual liberty.
Even if things go perfectly, there's a lot more warming.
There you have it, folks. The top 3 scandals that have made Bill Gates a controversial figure among right-wing Trump conservatives. From his aggressive vaccine advocacy to the Event 201 conspiracy and his climate change crusade, Gates' actions have raised serious questions about his motives and the impact of his philanthropic efforts. Stay tuned for more juicy gossip and remember to always question those who wield immense power and influence.
Accomplishments alone, but also on how well you have addressed the
the world's deepest
I hope you liked this video.
on how
If you
well
did, make sure to subscribe, as I will continue posting only the best celebrity and K-pop content.
their humanity.
This was Watch Wave, and until next time, have a good one.